Hey everyone, and welcome back to another patch 7.3 video. So, Legion invasion points have just been added to the 7.3 PTR, and this is one of the new features that was touted by in the first developer post that introduced this patch. So, I've been quite excited to see what these have really been all about. Now, this is a spoiler-free video, but really this feature doesn't have many spoilers. You pretty much go through a portal, you fight the Legion on another world, and that's it. It's simple enough, really. There's not really much in the way of story or narrative elements. Anyway, so we will have to wait and see what the reward structure of this patch is overall before we can really determine how integral these are going to be to your actual gameplay. But at the end of the day, my view is that the actual content does need to stand on its own, like, aside from reward systems. Now, the premise here is that the Legion is, of course, spread all across the galaxy, and this means that we can assault them on places other than Argus, and we can basically just strike some opportune targets. So Blizzard are quite clearly using this to provide us with some visual differentiation in the patch. These cover, like, just about every biome that we've seen in-game. Now, I've been to a few of them so far, and, you know, you've got your Northrend stuff in there. You've actually got a place that kind of looks like Shadowmoon Valley, but it's really beautiful. It's a very clever remixing of art assets that the team have already created, and I think it's a really welcome break from the visuals of this patch, as brilliant as they are. I do think overall this is one of the best patches we've ever got visually. But anyway, back to the feature itself. So it's accessible through portals that spawn on the map, and so far, quite a few of these have, like, been open at once at the same time, but that could just be to facilitate their testing requirements and to get enough people through the various different invasion points on offer because it's the PTR. We initially do get a quest, though, from Illidan to go and complete one. After completing this, I got another quest to basically just continue doing invasions for a resource called Argus Waystones. But what about the actual content itself? Well, bear in mind, this is early, okay? There could be other versions of these with, like, modifier effects, like keystones. We just don't know yet. Blizzard haven't told us, so this is just what I've seen in the PTR. I initially entered a blood invasion point, and it was full of enemies that were balanced for about 3 players, but it spawned me in alone. Now, I did try again, and I got 2 other players. The first objective was to destroy 3 of an object, and then after that, a bunch more demons spawned in, and we got a fill the bar objective to clear them out. Once that was done, then a boss spawned in. He wiped us quite handily, and then the game crashed. We all got booted out, and that was pretty much it for my first invasion point. Overall, though, I'd say this could have been completed within 3 minutes. If everything was going well. The boss did seem to have some mechanics that involve players being, like, chained together, and he spawned indestructible spikes that radiated an AoE, which I thought was pretty cool, but overall it did seem like quite a short bit of content. Anyway, I then went on to an ice rift, but this time it only let me in with one other player. This really followed a similar pattern. Objective 1 was to fill the bar for killing demons, Objective 2 was to free a bunch of demon hunters, and Objective 3 was just to kill the final boss. Now, this guy was very strange. He dropped void zones on the floor, and he had an avoidable meteor attack, but he also did a 4-second stun that kind of caused a fair few wipes that seemed to be unavoidable. Anyway, his health did not reset on wipes, so we eventually forced our way through. And at the end, a portal home spawned, and a bunch of Illidari were, like, around it, guarding it. And that was pretty much it. Once again, this could have been completed in, honestly, maybe even under 2 minutes by a full group if they were really, you know, going at it, but really between 2 and 4 minutes. Now, after this, I did some exploring to see the other invasion points, but it never, like, joined me in with other players, so I just went there for the visuals. Some of these, especially the Shadowmoon Valley Island one, or styled island one, they were very, very nice, really pretty, so great stuff from the art team and how they've composited these little scenes together. What do I think overall, though? Well, they bear resemblance to 2 things: Mists of Pandaria scenarios and Patch 7.2 Legion Invasion End scenarios. And I can't really say that's a good thing, and I'll tell you why. So, these seem to be quite static, and they, well, of course, they're not really that dynamic because they're static. Now, in the game files, they're referred to as rifts, which quickly made people think of Diablo 3, and perhaps pointed to, or, you know, alluded to the team's source of inspiration. There was a little bit of hope, therefore, that there'd be some random elements here, something new every time you went in, but so far that doesn't seem to be the case. The developers just kind of dropped it into the game without explaining their intent, though, so they're really hardly helping themselves out. A blue post that actually talked about what their goals for this feature are and its positioning in the patch would have been great. So, as far as I know, they don't actually have the technology worked out in the engine to procedurally generate terrain when people load into an area. I'm pretty sure this is all just working off fixed maps that are in the game files. They're not really generated when you spawn into them. Now, Diablo 3 was, of course, designed with generated content in mind, but World of Warcraft, from an engine capability standpoint, does not seem to have that ability, and it seems like that's something that's pretty limiting to the team. It basically means that the most they can do to provide gameplay variability through, in repeat content is through modifiers, which is what they do with Mythic Plus, or perhaps by varying NPC spawn locations, because that can be done server-side. So they can do things like that. Still, they are rather pigeonholed, though, into static content that doesn't really, like the map doesn't change or anything like that. So it's not really that varied. This isn't really getting into the pros and cons of generated content, of course, it's just a bit of an oddity with this. Really, so far, I think these could be a fun bit of variation initially, but past that, they don't seem very compelling in my opinion, much like my criticisms of the Legion invasions of patch 7.2. The static nature is really a big issue, and it's something that prevents them from feeling different to play over time. Still, they hardly take away from the game, and the fresh visuals are, they're definitely very nice, and it definitely is a break. So, really, it's less of a revolutionary feature, and it's more just a set of scenarios. Of course, this is all based on the PTR, and things could change. It could be the Blizzard just haven't shown everything yet, but we will just have to wait. Now, the rest of the stuff that was pushed in this PTR build is primarily the second zone of the patch. They look absolutely fantastic, so, at least or they look great in the face of it anyway, but we're still very much in a net positive for this patch, even if this feature is a bit of a dud. At least the idea of it's kind of cool. Perhaps Blizzard will take it further in the future. Really, I think what I would want is something closer to kind of like a cooperative Greater Rift in Diablo 3, something where, maybe the deeper you go into it, the harder the enemies get, or something like that, so that there's like a reason to repeat it. Maybe a weekly modifier, just anything like that to actually make these feel different on repeat gameplay sessions. But right now, they seem to be static. But again, Blizzard didn't really explain themselves, so it's hard to know what they actually want out of this. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. A little preview of the new invasion points on the patch 7.3 PTR. So thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned to the channel for lots of patch 7.3 content whenever it comes out, and a lot of other stuff as well. And yeah, I'll see you next time.